Hey everyone, I'm Harry from English Department St. Cyril's College. So as a part of our reading week, I will be reading out a short story after 20 years by O. Henry. So the short story is: The cop moved along the street looking strong and important. This was the way he always moved. He was not thinking of how he looked. There were few people on the street to see him. It was only about 10 at night, but it was cold and there was a wind with a little rain in it. He stopped at doors as he walked along, trying each door to be sure that it was closed for the night. Now and then he turned and looked up and down the street. He was a fine-looking cop, watchful, guarding the peace. People in that part of the city went home early. Now and then you might see a little light or a shop or a small restaurant, but most of the doors belonged to business places that had been closed hours ago. Then the cop suddenly slowed his walk. Near the door of a darkened shop, a man was standing. The cop walked towards him. The man spoke quickly. "It's all right, officer. I'm waiting for a friend. 20 years ago, we agreed to meet here. It sounds strange to you, doesn't it? I will explain if you want to be sure that everything is all right. About 20 years ago, there was a restaurant where this shop stands. Big Joe, Brady's restaurant. It was here until 5 years ago," said the cop. The man near the door had a colorless square face with a bright eyes and a little white mark near his right eye. He had a large jewel in his necktie. 20 years ago tonight," said the man, "I had dinner here with Jimmy Wells. He was my best friend and the best fellow in the world. He and I grew up together here in New York, like brothers. I was 18 and Jimmy was 20. The next morning I was to start for West. I was going to find a job and make a great success. You couldn't have pulled Jimmy out of New York. He thought it was the only place on earth. We agreed that night we would meet here again in 20 years. We thought that in 20 years we would know what kind of men we were and what future waited for us." "It sounds interesting," said the cop. "A long time between meeting, it seems to me. Have you heard from your friend since you went west?" "Yes. For a time we did write to each other," said the man, "but after a year or two we stopped. The West is big. I moved around everywhere and I moved quickly." "You were successful in the West, weren't you?" asked the cop. "I surely was. I hope Jimmy has done half as well. He was a slow mover. I've had to fight for my success. In New York, a man doesn't change much. In West, you learn to fight for what you get." The cop took a step or two. "I will go on my way," he said. "I hope your friends come all right. If he isn't here at 10, are you going to leave?" "I'm not," said the other. "I will wait for another half hour, at least. If Jimmy is alive on earth, he will be here at that time. Good night, officer." "Good night," said the cop. He walked away, trying doors as he went. There was now a cold rain falling and the wind was stronger. The few people walking along the street were hurrying, trying to warn. And at the doors of the shop stood the man who had come thousands of miles to meet a friend. Such a meeting could be certain, but he waited. About 20 minutes he waited. Then a tall man with a long coat came hurrying across the street. He went directly to the waiting man. "Is that you, Bob?" he asked doubtfully. "Is that you, Jimmy Wells?" cried the man at the door. The new man took the other man's hand in his hand. "It's Bob, it surely is. I was certain I would find you here if you were still alive. 20 years is a long time. The old restaurant is gone, Bob. I wish it were here so that we could have another dinner. It gave me everything I asked for. You've changed, Jimmy. I never thought you were so tall. Oh, I grew a little after I was 20. Are you doing well in New York, Jimmy?" "Well enough. I work for the city. Come on, Bob. We will go to a place I know and have a good long talk about old times." The two men started walking along the street, arm in arm. The man from the west was beginning to tell his story of the life. The other, with his caught up his ears, listened with interest. At the corner stood the shop, bright with electric lights. When they came near, each turned to look at their faces. The man from the west stopped suddenly and pulled his arm away. "You are not Jimmy Wells," he said. 20 years is a long time, but not long enough to change one's nose. It sometimes changes a good man to a bad one. said the tall man. "You have been under arrest for 10 minutes, Bob. Chicago cops thought you might be coming to New York. They told us to watch for you, and are you coming with me quietly? That's wise. But here is something I was asked to give you. You may read it here at the window. It's from a cop named Wells." The man from the west opened the little piece of paper. His hands began to shake a little as he read. "Bob, I was at the place on time. I saw the face of the man wanted by Chicago cops. I don't want to arrest you myself, so I went and got another cop and sent him to do the job. Jimmy." So that's the story. I hope you all have enjoyed listening to me. Thank you.